Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Pickleball Physio podcast, a podcast where we talk about pickleball injury recovery and performance and prevention, and then other general health and wellness topics that can help us stay on the courts longer, get back on the court sooner, and be able to just play one more game. We all just want to stay on the courts as long as we can. And today I have a very exciting episode ahead of us with a very special guest, Grace Legaspi. She and I connected through our business coach. We were in a kind of a workshop course together, and she and I ended up connecting. And Grace is also a physical therapist, and she's also getting into the world of microgreens. And microgreens, as I have come to learn in conversations with her, is a very, very handy source of nutrition that a lot of people don't realize is there. And so I'm excited for Grace to be sharing about these microgreens with us today. Thank you so much, Grace, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
Yes. So tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit more on how you came into the world of microgreens and what are microgreens for that matter.
Okay, so I've been an avid gardener for a decade. And just to give you a brief background, I did not eat vegetables. Even when I was younger, I was never pressured by my mom to eat vegetables, and I just never liked them. But come to find out, I just really didn't like a overboiled broccoli or the mushy spinach in a can and things like that. So I started growing it just because I needed a hobby, and I figured, how hard is it to grow a tomato? So I got into that. I started liking it, but then I knew I had to eat it. Otherwise, it's useless, right? So when I started doing that, I started liking to eat vegetables. So cucumbers tasted different when you grow it. Tomatoes are absolutely amazing when you grow it. So I got into that path. So still working as a physical therapist, I've been doing it for over 20 years. I started incorporating nutrition as part of my plan of care. I wanted my patients to start eating healthier and not just doing the exercises. Because if you really don't have energy, you're not going to do the exercises. It was during around the pandemic, I started going into more research again, and I started sprouting. So with some people that know about sprouting, it's this little seed, and it's usually 3 to 5 days old. And it's very nutritious. We've been eating it for 1,000 years in different cultures. If you think of the sprouts as babies, microgreens are the teenagers. And then full-grown mature vegetables are the adults. So with microgreens, you can grow that in any location, any temperature, pretty much, any climate, and you can harvest it. So from start to finish, you can harvest in 10 to 14 days. But why grow it, right? So during my research, I found that with microgreens, they're actually 40 times more nutrient dense than even eating a mature vegetable. So to me, it was a no-brainer. I needed to work smarter, not harder. I'm a lazy gardener. I don't have time to wait 60 days for one head of broccoli. And if an animal got to it, you don't have any broccoli. Or bugs ate my kale, so I didn't get anything. So those are the varieties that you can grow as microgreens. Kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, things that usually take longer to grow. Adult patients, it's kind of hard to chew kale. They actually feel like, well, I feel like a cow. I'm chewing and chewing, chewing. Or I have people that would cook down collard greens so much, right? Like in Southern cooking, because it's hard to chew. And at that point, you pretty much lost the nutritional value of it. So that's how I got into it. And then I started growing it for my family, for myself. And then next thing you know, I was selling it at farmers market, and I was teaching people how to grow it. And that's where I'm geared towards now, is I want more and more people to eat it and grow it, especially with everything that's going on. It's a life skill that we'd like to learn, and you don't need a backyard. You don't need a farm, especially we both live in California. Land is premium.
Yes.
So you can grow it in your next to your kitchen sink.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's very accessible and it's very beneficial in a lot of ways. And it's really exciting hearing again your story on how you came to it, because a lot of what we end up doing and finding is valuable to us, we kind of stumble into, or we kind of experiment with it and then end up, going down a rabbit hole and finding something really beneficial for it.
Mhm.
And with microgreens, and I love the analogy that you use with, the sprouts are the toddlers, the babies, and then the microgreens are the teenagers. Because what do teenagers do, when it comes to their body changing? There's a lot of growth happening, and
Mhm.
their body is using a lot of resources and energy. So that's kind of a perfect analogy to emphasize just how much nutrients are in microgreens.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So what is something about microgreens that a lot of people don't know? In terms, you were mentioning that they are far more potent than the adult version of the vegetable and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
when it comes to microgreens, what are the different ways that you eat them? Do you just like pluck them and eat them straight, or how do you
So for
incorporate
me, so
microgreens
I
into
grow
your
them in
diet?
soil. You can grow microgreens in hydroponically. You can grow them in soil. You can grow them, to be honest with you, in a paper towel if you really wanted to. Um, so you can just cut them. So you can keep them live next to your kitchen, right? Next to your blender. And in the morning, it's still living. You cut whatever you need, let the rest grow, and you're putting it straight in the blender. So that's the closest you're going to get from your farm to table. So if we want to talk about carbon footprint, it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So you're not using a lot of resources. Water consumption on that, you're watering it very, very little. They don't need a lot. So sustainability wise, it's still good. It's very viable. So for example, let's say when I'm working out, I like to have a smoothie in the morning, right? We want to
Mhm.
have a good start of our day. Usually, what do you put in your smoothie?
Mostly fruits, maybe some chia seeds or flax seeds,
Mhm.
maybe depending on what I have in the fridge, yogurt or juices, or if I'm feeling really really sweet tooth, some ice cream or something like
So
that.
we want
But
the sweetener, right? And we want it
right,
to be high in protein. That's why you're adding the chia seeds. So with microgreens, because they are potent, they're actually 30 to 40% protein. And not a lot of
mm,
people know that. So can you imagine putting a broccoli floret in the blender? It would be a sludge probably, right? It's
yeah,
probably not going to taste that good. So if you do it in microgreens, I mean, a little handful, right? We're talking about a little handful, an ounce. And I sell that practically by the ounce.
mhm,
You can already put it, like I said, broccoli, kale, collard greens. You can even do sweet peas. I grow sunflower. You can put a little of that in your blender, still put your chia seeds, still put Greek yogurt, maybe a banana or maybe peanut butter. Some people add that. You
mm.
blend it up and it's not fibrous. So you're not even going to tell the difference.
Yeah, the consistency is still
The
very
consistency
the
doesn't change.
enjoyable smoothie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yeah,
an ounce of microgreens, you're already eating an equivalent to a pound and a half of vegetables.
that's amazing.
So
That's
I
a
don't know
hefty
about you,
serving.
but I don't want a whole bowl of broccoli heads and just eat it.
Yeah.
It's not that enjoyable. I love vegetables, but not that much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, vegetables is kind of, when I think about my plate portions, I don't imagine wanting to eat mostly vegetables on my plate unless it's like a salad. But even in that, like,
Right. You end up
you can
chewing
get,
and chewing
you end
and
up chewing
chewing.
and chewing, chewing, and then you get bored of it. But to have something that you can get the benefits of the nutrition, of the
Right.
nourishment that comes from vegetables in a more compact, fun size, more easily ingested size. Sounds like a great little
Right.
tip too
And
for me.
everybody's busy schedule, right? Everybody's busy. So
Hmm.
sometimes I really don't have time to eat. So I'd rather drink it.
Hmm.
And you don't need a special juicer, although that is advisable. So you can juice everything. But
Yeah.
with microgreens, you just need a blender.
Yeah. So how do microgreens, you mentioned that with, some of the adults that you work with, and have talked to, you will do your exercises, or you'll be able to see changes if you have the energy, and the right nutrients give you energy. So can you tell us more about how microgreens can help us pickleballers with our energy, or with getting the right nourishment? What is it fulfilling in that realm for us?
So with microgreens, it's still so let's just talk about a broccoli or a kale microgreen, right? We already know kale is a superfood. So
Yes.
you put that in, like I said, a smoothie again, because that's the quickest way to take it in. So you're gonna have as much protein to start your day. Those are slow burning carbs, so you're gonna feel
Mhm.
fuller.
Mhm.
And so either if because of work or pickleballing, it's a win-win.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's really easy because most people that play pickleball, whether we're just playing rec games with our friends,
Mhm.
or we're getting started and prepping for a tournament, most of our events happen, first thing in the morning. And
Right.
sometimes some people aren't hungry enough for maybe a sit down breakfast. So to have microgreens thrown into, a snack or into a smoothie or something like that, that you're getting the nutrition and nourishment that you need for your games, until you can have a little bit more food, and that you're getting a good, more bank for your buck when you're eating
Absolutely.
microgreens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you grow it, so let's say you grow a whole tray, right? And you have a tournament, maybe you're going out of town. You can actually harvest that, put it in your little to-go Tupperware, whatever, a glass container, something that's airtight, and you can munch on it.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. So either you munch on it straight as a microgreens, you
Mhm.
can add it in your sandwich. You have soup, put it in your soup. I put in everything, really. That's what I like about it too. It's so versatile that even if I'm eating something that, let's just admit it, it's not that healthy,
Mhm.
I would put some microgreens in it and everybody's happy. So I have little ones, I have teenagers, and it's not the easiest to make them eat their vegetables. So this was
Mhm.
another reason why I did the deep dive into this,
Yeah.
because it's so easy to incorporate that it makes kids love eating vegetables.
Which, I mean, who doesn't want to have an easy way to get kids to love eating their vegetables? More or less us as adults too.
Yeah,
So
because
I know
it's
you say
good for
that
you, but it's really hard.
it is really hard. And like you said, sometimes we get tired of all the chewing that we have to do, or we don't want to sit down and just be chewing on vegetables over and over and over until they're like the optimal, mush that we're supposed to swallow or whatever. So it's nice to have that option as microgreens. So you mentioned you put it into sandwiches, salads, soups, and stuff like that. You make smoothies with them. What are some things? Is there anything that we as pickleballers can start getting into now? Maybe any sort of recommendations or recipes that you have in mind that we can start incorporating microgreens into our diet right now?
Oh, good question. I actually made a recipe specially for pickleballers for a client, and
Yay!
we're gonna call it pickleball power smoothie.
Pickleball Power Smooth. So it's special, specific for us pickleballers. Grace has created and been so gracious, to offer a recipe that we can be using specific for our sport and getting us powered up and ready for our games. So can you tell us a little bit about, what kind of things that you had in mind when you were putting together this recipe?
So I wanted convenience, number one,
Mhm.
something that you can do in 5 minutes first thing in the morning.
We like that.
Wait, I love that.
Hmm.
And high in protein, high in energy, but slow burning energy. So
Hmm.
those are the things that I thought about. And also you can either actually make it make it advanced. You can put it in a little container, combine all the ingredients, and then in the morning, just blitz it in your blender, put it in your to-go container, and you're good to go. Or you can, like I said, you can put it right there and then you're still getting all your ingredients, but it's easy enough. You can do it, let's just say 10 minutes.
Awesome. And we really love our convenience. We love to be able to grab and go and get to the games, get to our court, and to all of our friends. And I'm sure that this is something that more and more people, as we start incorporating this into our diet, will start to feel more energy. That slow burning energy is really, really handy, because then you don't
Yes.
burn through it so fast. It'll give you more longevity to play more games. And so you won't be like cramping in the middle of a game, because you have the resources and the nourishment that you need to be able to withstand however long of a game you're playing, or bouts of games that you're playing. You mentioned broccoli, you mentioned kale, you mentioned collard greens. What are other vegetables that we can get microgreens from that you tend to find people like to harvest and to grow for themselves?
Okay, so a few of my favorites, of course, I love them all. I grow about 14 different varieties just to begin with. Top ones are sweet peas, sunflower. Those are very good anti-inflammatories. So especially with
Excellent.
the older generation that have, flare-ups of arthritis, things like that, those are good. Broccoli. Broccoli is my number one for cancer fighting, because it's one of the highest in sulforaphane, and we know that's the compound that fights cancer. So sulforaphane levels in broccoli microgreens is actually 100 times more than eating a mature broccoli. So again,
Excellent.
I love it.
Yeah.
Kale, we already know is a superfood. We should eat that a lot. Radish, I love because it's one of the easiest to grow, and it has a little bit of a spice. So it's perfect in tacos, burritos, egg rolls. So I love that for flavor, for extra oomph. Beets microgreen, very good for cardiovascular strength. So that high antioxidant, that bright red color, we love that. You can grow Swiss chard microgreens, micro cilantro, micro carrots. Almost everything can be grown as microgreens.
Yeah. Which which we love, because then you get the variety of all those different types of vitamins and minerals and benefits from the variety of vegetables that we're supposed to eat, without having to worry too much. And especially if you may not have a green thumb necessarily, but you want to be able to start growing stuff at home. Grace has explained how simply it is. You can just grow it next to your kitchen sink, and you don't really need very much more than water. She's actually sent me some in these lovely, adorable little packages, some seeds that I'm going to be starting to grow myself. And I'm really excited to be working with Grace to kind of learn more about how to take care of these microgreens and to start my own little home garden. Yeah. And realistically, you spend like what, $4 for an ounce in a grocery store? I think we had talked a little bit about the math before, versus
so $4 or $5 for a little container at the grocery store. And the question is always, how many days has it been? Right. So you're talking about, the sad part is, so we live in California, some of our microgreens. So I'm in Southern California. So I'm in Corona. Some of these microgreens, because I would look at grocery stores, some come from North California or even Canada. And microgreens, they're so delicate, and it's such a specialty, right? You're growing it in 10 to 14 days. And how many days for that to get from the farm to the distributor, and then the distributor to the supermarket? So by the time you get it, you're lucky if it's 5 days old. Whereas if you're growing it, how old is the broccoli you just put in your smoothie? It's literally 5 seconds old.
We have the benefit of being able to grow our own microgreens. That's also something that you're trying to do more of, is not only teach people how to grow their own microgreens, but you send them out to people yourself too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm all for making people really learn how to grow this. And especially for athletes, you're always looking for the best, right? The best ingredients, the best equipments, because you want that enhancement for your sports, right? And the longevity, like you said. So this is one of the things that I think is one of the key for you to understand and learn and be part of your regimen.
Absolutely. And to all of you listeners, I definitely will be giving you an update as these are growing and I'm eating them, and I'll let you know what differences I feel with my game, my energy levels, and my performance, because I am a believer that what we eat has a lot to do with our health, has a lot to do with our energy, has a lot to do with our ability to take on any of the different things that we're doing, whether it's protecting ourselves from sickness or recovering from injuries. Food is a key component because it's what goes in our body, and we metabolize that. Everything that we put in our body or have around us in our environment, it makes a difference for our health. And so microgreens is such a great avenue and a great missing link from what the conversations that I've had with Grace. It's a missing link to be able to get the quality nutrition that we're looking for, especially with, all the different ways that we get our food now. The quality of an apple now and the amount of nutrition that is in an apple now may not be the same potency as it was 10 years ago, or even 3 years ago, just by nature of the way that farming is. And so if you have control of being able to grow your own food and eat the potent microgreen food, then you're getting quality nutrition and quality nourishment. And exactly where it came from. Like Grace said, there's sustainability from.
Absolutely. And you shouldn't sell yourself short. You want to put the best in your body.
Especially for us pickleball athletes, whether recreational or competitive. Yes. We like to know that we're going to be able to play another game. And if adding something to our diet is going to get us the opportunity to play another game, then I'm all for it. So thank you, Grace. If people are wanting to follow more about what you're doing with microgreens and learning more about microgreens, maybe learning how to grow their own microgreens, where can people find you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram. It's TinyLeafFarm. And you can find a lot of the recipes, the varieties that I grow, in an upcoming class that I'm holding. And because I've been asked about this, so instead of physical classes, I am now going to do online classes.
Hooray!
Just so I can spread the word.
We're so excited about it. And I will include all of these links in the show notes, in the description, including the recipes, her pickleball power-up smoothie recipe, and all of Grace's links. You're going to have complete access to what Grace has to offer. And please do tune in to her virtual class that she will be holding if you have any even remote interest in getting into microgreens, because she's a great, clear communicator. And it really is a lot more simple than a lot of people might initially think. So you can do it. You can grow your own microgreens, and you can enhance your energy for your time on the pickleball courts and off the pickleball courts. Yes, spread the word. Well, thank you so much, Grace. Thank you so much to all of the viewers and listeners for tuning into the Pickleball Physio podcast. We will see you guys out on the courts.
All right. Thank you.